This is the 22nd season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Back in studio actually for a day, just got back from the Bassmaster Open on Kentucky Lake. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, and then I'm headed this afternoon over to Lake Guntersville for Fishing Chaos's The Future, combining, I guess, social media influencers and industry people with some of the top professionals. Going to live stream the event on all of our different social media platforms and YouTube channels with everybody who's involved there, as well as kind of a combined feed on the Fishing Chaos app, website, channel. So that will be that'll be an exciting event. We'll talk a little bit about that as we have coming up. We had another crazy week, and it kind of is becoming a monthly thing. If you subscribe to bestontour.net or the Best on Tour weekly newsletter, you know, one of the features that's on that website is a combined schedule of everything that's going on the water in professional bass fishing. And with three seemingly very healthy, productive tours going on, you got the NPFL, MLF, and Bassmasters. There's a lot of overlap these times, and you try to give everybody their just due and their shows and who won and who did what, but there's like 3 or 4 weeks a year where you have major events from all three tours that are all going on the same week. And this was kind of the case with the heavy hitters going down in Florida with Major League Fishing, the Bassmaster Open, division number 2 going on Kentucky Lake, and the NPFL, I believe, on Lay Lake. And we're going to cover all that with Dave Rush, who looks like he's in pretty good shape for a holiday weekend. Thanks for jumping on, Dave.
What's up, Matt? I am very glad that we created the master calendar for tournaments because, man, like you were saying, it is hard to keep up with everything that's going on. It's exciting at the same time, but hard to keep up with. And you got to kind of pick and choose what you watch, man. It's hard to get it all in, but a lot of good tournament fishing content happening over the past week.
It is. First and foremost, today is May 25th, live show in the morning. Back for, I will say this. So after this week, be back in studio on Thursday. Then we'll have a couple full weeks of shows, and then we'll be at the Mississippi River for the final Division II stop at the Opens, and then back in the studio for basically another month. I did just drop the Kentucky Lake Bassmaster Open video. That was a very interesting tournament. I finished 60th in that tournament, in 43rd in the EQs top 50, or in the division top 50 go to the EQs, but a little bit of haphazard hopping all around with shows. So thank you for everybody's patience for sticking with it, but we're trying to get these shows in, and we'll be back to the regularly scheduled programming as soon as possible. You've been busy too, Dave.
Yeah, we have been all over the place, man. We've been on the road, back again, editing content from media events and covering these tournaments. But, man, we are, excited about the stage of the season we're in. A lot of things starting to shape up. You just mentioned the EQ points, Angler of the Year standings, classic contention, people winning hundreds of thousands of dollars in Florida on the BPT event over there. Dave Lefebvre coming back and taking a bunch of cash home with him. So, man, just a lot of stuff going on if you are a fan of tournament bass fishing right now.
Let's just dive right into it, and let's talk about heavy hitters, because that, I think, is one of the tournaments that MLF has done an incredible job of growing, of making it kind of a specialty event. It's kind of a standalone event. You're talking about guys who qualify for this event in the previous year, where they take the weight of their biggest bass from each of the stages the previous year, And then it's kind of a no entry fee. I believe they get like $4,800 to just show up for heavy hitters. $10,000 for the big bass in each round. They split it into 2 groups, and then the final round, everything's zeroed. $100,000 for the biggest bass, $100,000 for the overall win, potential of $200,000 for first place and big bass in the heavy hitters. And guys can go out and swing in that thing because there's no points on the line. And one of the other interesting things is with the turnover that we've seen on the BPT, you also kind of get another look or a last look at some anglers who aren't fishing on the BPT this year, but get that shot to come back. Last year, we saw Matt Steffen, who wasn't on the BPT, but he came back. He won, I think, 40 grand in that event doing it. This year, we saw Big Show come back and take a swing at it too. But a really cool event that's kind of become, a lot of guys will say, hey, I had a bad tournament, but at least I caught a big one and got into heavy hitters.
Yeah, a great point. When this first popped up on my radar that this was going down this week, I was like, man, that's very interesting. Orange Lake in Florida. If you follow their team series event, they had fished a team series event there before, but a different Orange Lake this time. A lot of talk about whether they were even going to be able to have the event due to the low water level on Orange Lake. But man, did they have it? And they caught some absolute giants. You talk about Big Show. Day 1 or day 2, they split it back into groups for this one, Matt, which was interesting. Also gave you a little bit of different look to what they used to do, a group A and group B. But man, Big Show, just doing Big Show Florida things with a prop bait or something going on first day. He was out there just smashing them. Looked like he was obviously did run away with a lot of the qualifying rounds, but it came down to the final day, and like you said, a guy who is not currently competing on the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour, but had qualified and came back, in Dave Lefevre, and man, took home some massive cash. And could you be any more impressed with the fish you were seeing coming out of Orange Lake? I mean, it just seemed like every highlight. I mean, there wasn't enough time for highlights. There were so many giants.
It was. I talked to several of the anglers who didn't make that the final qualifying round or the championship round, and they were talking about how it was a very challenging lake to get keepers on because the weight of the keepers changed. But then also you had the opportunity to catch a giant fish, but that the guys who had it figured out made the keeper bite seem incredibly easy because it wasn't the size of the fish that got you to the next round. You still had to catch the numbers of keepers, but talking to some of those guys, I said it was, well, I mean, there were like 20 fish caught on the 30 fish caught on the final day. Like Lefevre won it. He only had 7 fish on the final day,
but a 9-3.
Yeah. But a 9-3 too. I would be remiss to mention, this was actually the last week that we got to see Skeet Reese actually compete at that top before, he'd retired at the end of last year, but came back for heavy hitters. We mentioned Big Show. Terry Scroggins also had Gary Klein in this field. So a lot of legendary anglers that were in this field. But before we get to Lefevre, which we will, because you want to talk about potentially, I don't exactly know if he stated, but potentially riding off into the sunset on a high note after competing in a sport that will just, kick you while you're down. And then as you get back up, push you back down, and then occasionally offer a hand and be like, okay, you can stand up this time. John Hunter had one of the wildest fish catches / losses that I think has ever happened in the history of professional bass fishing. And I'm not saying that to like rub salt in the wound, but just as covering the sport. I mean, these are people you're watching this for entertainment, you're learning from it. But in your mind, and we'll play the clip here in a second, Dave, have you ever seen a more heartbreaking moment on the water in the situation that he found himself in?
Not that I can remember on a live feed. I think we've seen, several times where guys were swinging fish where they bounced off the console, bounced off the side of the boat. But for a guy to get his hand on a fish in the way that he did, not like a belly scoop, but actually lip the fish, and it seemed like, had the momentum, fish coming into the boat, and that fish just made a surge, fought him and came off. And we all know, I mean, how many times have you dropped a 2-pounder trying to bag a fish much less, fish looked, 8-9 pounds, probably easy. So easily can happen, but man, what a heartbreaker. But I am sure the impressions and insights there on that social media clip for Major League Fishing at John Hunter's expense, unfortunately, have racked up the numbers.
Yeah, when it comes to, like, I guess, timing are important. I mean, the one that sticks out to me, obviously, is the Amart smallmouth bass when he went to boat flip it in Pittsburgh. That would have given him the win over KVD. 4 second place finishes in the Classic is what Amart ended up with, and that one was probably the biggest heartbreaker because that was the 6 figures right there, the Classic trophy, the whole 9 yards. This was 10 pounds and a $10,000 fish, but just the way that it went down was wild. And you can see here, so he hooks up on the fish. I mean, dude, when you're leaning on a fish like that.
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind, the viewers, if you didn't check it out, a lot of these fish is, as soon as they were hooked up with them, were buried up in the grass.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a large fish buried in the grass. You don't want to horse them out, right? Because you can potentially pull the hooks out. But this one looks like it gets free. He's got it coming to the boat. And what unfolds next is pretty crazy.
So here's what I don't understand. So if you pause it right here, he's got the fish and the fish is still hooked up. And I've watched this a number of different times, but I can't figure out when the hook comes out of this fish's mouth, Dave, because he's got it. He's still got it. I don't see the bait there. That's a freaking giant fish. And then the fish comes out. The only thing is that, I don't know where because it's just gone immediately. I don't know where in this, like, you don't see the bait come flying out. You don't see it. Do you have any concept of when the hook actually came out of that fish's mouth to where he didn't just have to fight it back and wrangle it back in?
Yeah, and no, and we don't know. There's a possibility maybe it broke the line. Well, we don't know that. But no, you don't. I don't physically see a bait or hook fly out. But
he freaking had it.
What a moment. Yeah, had it.
He landed that fish.
I've heard a lot of people online give the comment, the analogy of comparing this to going into the touchdown celebration a yard or two before the goal line, some defensive back poking the ball out through the back of the end zone.
I don't know, though, because I don't think he was hot dogging it. I think
not really. I think he was using the
I think he had it, and it just did. Sometimes those fish just are, they're powerful. Like a big fish like that can actually move a lot of water. Bounces it right off the side of the boat. He's got it full grip. It's not like he was hot dogging. Like, you can tell he's not even listening at the camera. He's going to get it in. And it just ripped out of his hands.
He's definitely not looking at it. Eye is definitely not on the ball, so to speak, though.
Little cavalier, maybe. I don't know. It's just I don't personally know.
And the hat loss, just to add.
Yeah, I don't personally know John Hunter that well.
Right.
There are a few interactions. He's always been super chill. I hate to see this at his expense, and it's not like taking a shot at him or anything, but that is just an absolute heartbreaker.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you saw the one also. It's potentially cost Jake Lawrence the tournament. There was a giant one that Jake Lawrence lost on the final day that he never got his hands on, but did the whole, dive in, almost fall out of the boat to get it. His in particular didn't look like he had that great of a hook set on the fish. It was kind of screaming towards him and just tail walking and flew by the side of the boat and just came off. But man, it's not easy to land those big fish.
Now let me ask you this. From a media fan perspective, in the era that we live in where this was instantly out, we were at the Bassmaster Opens and people were texted me the clip, and everyone, we were all, like during practice, be like, have you ever seen such a heartbreaking moment? Could losing a fish like this for John Hunter do more for his career than had he actually landed it? Because, Michael Neal landed a bunch of them. There were a bunch of big fish that were landed, and it's, oh, cool, that's a big fish. but is there potential for him to gain a lot more fans, have a lot more impressions, media stuff in a weird way by losing this fish in the fashion that it did, rather than just landing it and life goes on?
I think without question, I mentioned it at the top of the segment about impressions and viewership on that clip. I would venture to say, not knowing the analytics from Major League Fishing, but I would venture to say that's the top watched clip from heavy hitters. Which, not taking anything away from Dave Lefevre and what he did, but I would guess that the numbers of his winning moment are probably dwarfed by John Hunter losing the fish. So, with that being said, a lot of people that maybe weren't familiar with John Hunter maybe follow John Hunter on social media in hopes of maybe getting a reaction or explanation, or saying, man, I really feel for that guy. Let's see how he bounces back in the next event. So, yeah, I mean, I think for sure it could definitely be beneficial for John Hunter in the long run. They're probably well worth more, honestly, probably well worth more than $10,000.
Yeah, it wasn't the $100,000 fish. It would have probably been the $10,000 fish. But all right, let's talk about Dave Lefevre. The dude has been doing this for a quarter century. One of the top well-known pros, but self-admittedly a little quiet over the past few years. Life on the BPT hasn't been bad for him, but hasn't had very many Dave Lefevre moments like we were used to. Didn't he? What wrap did he ran? He ran one of the Kellogg's wraps, didn't he?
And his FLW days.
Yeah, back in the FLW days. Like that's like how I remember vintage Dave Lefevre.
And we had the opportunity to cover him a good bit during our time out on tour,
the Elite Series.
On the Elites, covering it. But I think people tend to maybe overlook Dave Lefevre just a little bit. I mean, he has almost $2.5 million in career earnings, 6 career wins. I mean, even though he's been doing that, a quarter century, I mean, to rack up almost 2.5 million, that's pretty good average, per season. And he's done some big things in the fishing world. So it was cool to see him back and cool to see him have some success. And man, I mean, I followed the tournament pretty closely, and it seemed to me like he kind of flew under the radar a little bit until the final day, and he just put on a show.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I mean, he fished the BPT for all the years. He made the cut, had not qualified for any of the red crest, like his finishes: 38th, 45th, 68th, 56th, 74th, 48th, 50th, one top 10 in 7 years on the BPT, which is very un-Dave Lefevre like. When you look back at is his history on the pro circuit. I mean, he averaged a top 10 every single year back with FLW, and the same with the Elite Series. Right. But I don't know, like Dave Lefevre retiring was not on my radar. And one of the quotes, I mean, he basically said that like he's done. He won the $100,000. He had the 9-pounder. He got 200,000 in the last. If you look at the picture here, he's got the trophy, he's got the belt, and then his quote was, "It's been an emotional, spiritual battle for the last 5 years, and it feels like God's way of telling me I'm doing the right thing by going out this way."
I think in tournament fishing, very few anglers have the choice or the ability to go out on top and go out in their way. If it is, in fact, Lefevre's final event, which, he stated so much as of now. I mean, what a way to go out, man. You couldn't think of a better way to end a storied career. Like I said, 6 career wins, almost 2.5 million in career earnings. Very influential angler, from the Northeast area of the country. So if it is, man, congratulations to him on a stellar career.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit of bookending. I remember back when I used to cover the FLW tour and was on the road with Chad Morgenthaler, one of his good friends. I mean, pretty much everybody's good friends was Glenn Brown there in Florida, who passed away a number of years ago with cancer, but he was a universally well-liked, genuine, high caliber angler, just a good dude. Glenn Brown was, and I didn't know that Lefebvre was really good friends with him. And I guess, but from reading the article, listening to some of the interviews, he said that this was actually kind of fitting because Orange Lake is where he used to fish a lot with Glenn before Glenn passed away. So he said, I knew the potential that it was the end, the last one. I just have to learn how God works, and I needed it. And he also had some pretty crazy moments to catch fish in the last second in the qualifying rounds to get into where the weight's zeroed. So a cool win for Dave Lefebvre in heavy hitters. And I guess if you're just strictly looking at it from a financial standpoint, pull a Michael Bennett, win the cash, and then get out. So 200,000 makes up for a lot of average years,
It does. I mean, not competing for the last year or so, full time, probably saved a lot of money. Not being on the road, entry fees, travel expenses. So to kind of put 200,000 in the bank account, kind of pad it a little bit on your way out. And I'm sure he's not done with fishing totally, but maybe nationwide, tour level competitive fishing.
Yeah. And, another one of those guys not on the BPT in 2026, but heavy hitters, giving him the opportunity to come back and take another crack at it.
Yep. Really cool event. Like you mentioned, getting to see Skeet, Big Show, some of those guys that you haven't seen. Gary Klein. He's still competing on the pro circuit over there, but, good to see all those guys in one place. Small field, really cool format, a lot of big fish. So it was really cool to watch.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk Koike urchin style baits. We saw what happened at Santee Cooper a couple weeks ago in a no live scope event that was dominated by the full cast Koike, by the urchin style baits. And that translated over to the NPFL on Lay Lake, where Alex Davis won $100,000 and pretty much did it on the back of blind snapping a urchin style bait, which is interesting because we're learning. This is one of those things where we're learning about a bait that didn't exist before live streaming and social media. Like you could even say the minnow kind of was able to stay under the radar because there was a year or two before it was so, the live streaming, all that stuff was so readily available. Like this is a very interesting case study in it. So we're going to take our first break of the day. When we come back, more with Dave Rush from Best on Tour as we unpack 1, 2, 3. There's like $350,000 won between the three tours just in first place prizes this year. So BTL on a Monday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Before there were hashtags, there were handshakes and shared stories. They gave us confidence to make our first cast, to chase our dreams. They taught us to fish, and in the process, taught us about life. They taught us that success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about lifting others up. The future isn't just about selling tackle. It's about 3 simple words. Let's go fishing. Here's to the original influencers.
As a professional angler, there's only one thing that connects you to your paycheck. Probably the most crucial part to tournament bass fishing. I use Sunline because they have a line for every application. Shooter FX2 All Might. Super light line, big stuff, big sticks. Sunline has you covered.
Sharp as can be. Super strong, super durable.
Really good penetration.
Thinner and stronger.
Catch fish after fish.
I want to make sure that I'm using the best stuff possible.
World's finest hook. World's finest hook.
Gamakatsu, world's finest hook.
I fish in some of the worst elements across the country. Spring, that's a giant, dude. Summer, oh my gosh. Hi, look at that thing. Winter, it's so cold. And fall. Got a big one, that's awesome. Being comfortable and staying dry is the only option. AFTCO, any fish, any water.
Welcome back, BTL Special Edition Monday edition, as we unpack everything that happened over the fourth week, the end of May already, May 25th. All right, let's go NPFL. Alex Davis, Urchin win, and I think like many guys had no plans of throwing it when he went into the tournament, and then ended up saying it's the only thing that officially.
It's interesting. I think we should probably touch on, I was just thinking during the break on how we kind of arrived here at the non-scope Urchin era that we're in. At the beginning of the Elite Series season, we had non-scope Guntersville. Then we had Fisher Anaya win on the 17 millimeter style Urchin bait. I think he threw the full cast some too. But, you know, the next tournament, I believe, was Tennessee Tom Bigby. And it stood out to me that Davey Height mentioned, he said he was really surprised on the live coverage that nobody was throwing a Urchin style bait without the live scope. And it didn't make any sense to him that in the angler's mind, the only way that fish were going to bite the Urchin style bait was if they could see them on their forward facing sonar and be able to manipulate it to get them to react. So I think it's finally caught up, the snap in action. Few different ways guys are working the bait, but I think guys have gotten, there's enough information out there now. Guys have gotten dialed in on the rigging. They've gotten dialed in on, hey, this is kind of generally the way I'm seeing guys work this. Why wouldn't this work? In target-related situations, or using kind of a mega 360 style deal instead of forward-facing. And man, that's exactly what Alex Davis did. Maybe taking a cue from watching a little Bassmaster Elite Series coverage there at Santee Cooper, I would think.
Yeah. His quote was, "I would never have guessed my first big win would be on an Urchin style bait. I had no idea coming in I would even throw one, and honestly, I only had 6 of them to my name." I guess he started throwing jerk bait around a little bit and was catching smaller fish. And he goes, "I actually started on the jerk bait, caught a few small fish. I got sick of it, started throwing the Urchin within the first few hours." And he's going to say something here that I'm going to dive into. And it's controversial, and I have an opinion on it, and I'm going to give my opinion on it, Dave. So listen to this next quote very carefully. "I got sick of it and I started throwing the Urchin. Within the first few hours, I had my day one limit. I was simply going down the bank, keeping my eyes on my Humminbird Mega 360, fishing every dock, brush pile, stump, or patch of grass that I could find. I knew after day one that I had a shot." There were Elite Series anglers who, after Santee Cooper, posted things about, hey, so glad we didn't have forward-facing sonar so everybody could just stare at their 360 to find the grass clumps and cast at the stumps and things like that afterwards. Now you have the MPFL that's a no forward-facing sonar event, and the guys who wins is crediting his Mega 360. Take out words Humminbird Mega 360 and put in Active Target 2, Live Scope, Hummingbird's version. So the quote is, "Keeping my eyes on my live scope, fishing every dock, brush pile." Totally changes, but it's the exact same thing. Here's my opinion, Dave. This is an opinion. And I know we're sponsored by the Bass Tank, and it's all technology and all of this. If you are going to have electronics limited tournaments, I do not think 360 should be in the equation. I think if you are going to fish these tournaments where they're making a point of saying this is a no live scope event, or we do not allow live sonar, I think 360 should be included in that. Have your side imaging that's limited to the back of the boat, that's limited to those graphs, but up front, 2D, if you're going to go this route, because all you're seeing are guys with the spy pole, with the 360, with the Mega 360 Live, you are still able to do basically the same things. And from watching coverage, everybody, if that's what you're worried about as an organization, or as a quote purity of the sport, if that's what you're concerned about, guys looking down, casting the structure that they can't see with their visible eyes, or that they're not finding on side imaging and throwing a buoy and triangulating and back how they used to do it old school, then I do not believe there's a place for 360 in these tournaments that are specifically designated as no FFS tournaments. That's just my opinion.
I think that's a fair take. It will be interesting to get your take on how that all comes together when we start talking about the Kentucky Lake Open as well. There's some things there that kind of correlate to this. But a guy like Alex Davis been doing it since 2013 over on the FLW side at the time. Over $600,000 in career earnings over there. So he's no rookie at this. Yeah. I don't disagree with you. Maybe it plays out different if there is forward facing involved in the NPFL, just because guys are more proficient at it. But there was not. However, electronics played a huge role in this tournament, self-admittedly, from the guy who won it. It'd be interesting, if you dive even deeper with him, to see how many of those fish did he catch on things he otherwise would not have known were there, without the 360.
Mark, I know I've fish. Like, I've been in the boat with 360. I've been in the boat with live. I realize it's not the same, but the product that you are getting is the same, because you're looking down at a screen casting to something. That's what they're trying to eliminate. Trust me. Like, if these organizations would have done it, if it was exciting, if people quote thought, you're getting more viewers because of the lot. Like, I'm not saying that it's the same thing, but what I am saying is you're producing a product that is remarkably similar to what you're trying to change. That's what I'm saying for it. That's all I'm saying.
I think in this particular tournament, that's a fair take. There have been NPFL events where Mega 360 did not play such a big factor. I think time of year, fishery, it just kind of lined up for it too. But to your point, that's fair if you were talking about the visual aspect of watching the event and the complaints from fans about guys staring down at their electronics every day.
You want to hear what Patrick Walter said?
Have at it.
Patrick Walter said, I was looking for any signs of life, brim bed, spawner, shad spawn, just gauging. I had enough deep water stuff from 3 years ago, so I knew it could run around. We had scope back then, so I knew how things set up and what the piles look like. This time I had to use my Humminbird Mega 360 to be as efficient as possible.
And that's coming from a guy who is very proficient at forward-facing sonar, but also, I would say, one of the top guys currently with Mega 360 as well.
I'm just saying.
And keep in mind, it's still usable on the elites, right?
And you want to talk about the cost factor in it? You get rid of the forward-facing sonar because you got the black box, you got the transducers, you have the mounts, you have the 0 degree. All of that costs money. Have you looked into how much a Mega 360 costs? Have you looked into what the spy pole costs with an additional screen? We're doing the same thing. It's the exact same thing with the exact same cost. And you still got guys that are looking down. It's just they're looking down longer, casting the same thing longer because it's not actually live. It's
not to mention, if you really want to kind of get into weeds a little bit more with it, at the beginning of every year, I do an equipment list, for the guys, just so we kind of do our stats and things based on that. A lot of guys who have never been associated with Johnson Outdoors, with Humminbird, they are having to, like you said, buy a unit to run the Mega 360, buy the extra sturdy mount for the 360, buy an extra 360 transducer in case something goes wrong on the road or whatever, and they're in need of it. So cost factor, fair point again, adding to your cost in order to have the 360 type technology now with Garmin, with the spy pole guys adding that as well if they're Garmin guys. So,
and I'm just bringing this up, Dave. I mean, I gave my opinion on it and stuff. Like, I'm not crapping on any of the leagues for anything, or, I have no affiliation with any specific electronics company or whatsoever. I'm just saying, if you're trying to control the optics and create something that's not, you're in a league that promotes, hey, no forward facing sonar. And all the top guys are talking about how the key was their electronics.
Yeah. And I don't recall
that they were looking at from the front deck of their boat.
I don't recall, specifically we would have to go back and look at the article or reach out to him himself. But I don't recall exactly how much of a factor Chris Johnson stated that his Garmin spy pole with the 360 type technology was a factor in his Santee Cooper win. But I would assume, fishing docks that I'm familiar with brush and different pieces of structure around the docks and some of the things he was doing, I would assume it probably played some sort of role in his win as well.
And I wasn't specifically talking Chris Johnson. I was talking about, there's another angler who put a rant online who's like, hey, thank God we didn't have live scope here so everybody could just go out and stare at their 360 instead. Angler of the year for the MPFL, wildly interesting. KJ Queen is leading that field, which has a lot of really good anglers in it.
Yeah, and he has been, I think, we've talked about over the past several years, kind of the top 10 in the AOY pretty consistently being filled with familiar Elite Series names. KJ Queen has kind of been right in that mix as well, and had a good event. Third place there on Lay Lake. I think sometimes you forget it's KJ Queen because of how they list his name on the NPFL, so you kind of maybe overlook that sometimes. But yeah, man, I mean, getting it done. He's quietly had some really good Elite Series tournaments over the past several years too, some top 10s. Been a lot more consistent than he was in the early stages of his career. So it will be cool to see that kind of unfold and see how he handles going into the lead. But man, I mean, some absolute hammers there. You look at it, KJ Queen leading Brandon Cobb by 1 point, Zach Bird by 2 points, Brock Mosley, who I honestly was not very aware of him fishing the NPFL, but he's in the mix over there. Hank Cherry, Patrick Walters in the top 10, and Randall Tharp rounded it out there in 10th place. But yeah, very interesting AOY race in the NPFL with a few events left to go.
You mentioned a name there. It's been you haven't really been aligned to fish multiple tours, the full field for multiple tours, the old FLW and Elite Series days, or MLF and Elite Series. But you got to look at Zach Burge here. Zach Burge leading the Angler of the Year on the BPT, having a hell of a year over there. And also in third, but just 2 points behind KJ Queen in the NPFL. Very realistic chance that Zach Burge is in the mix to win the BPT Angler of the Year and the MPFL Angler of the Year. Another angler who's quietly having an insanely good year. There's 2 anglers who have this chance based on the 3 tours. Brandon Cobb, who's only 1 point behind KJ Queen in the Angler of the Year on the NPFL, is also in 5th place in the Angler of the Year on the Bassmaster Elite Series. So you've got a couple anglers there that are fishing 12 to 15 tournaments across the 2, one with live, one with or without. But I mean, we're talking like power fishermen here, both of those guys that have a shot to win double Angler of the Year titles. And also a shout out to the MPFL that we're having this show and we're talking about it, and we're including them in the 3 major trails, and that we're talking about a win that they're having, and that they have all of their stuff on YouTube with its live and stuff. I mean, like, that's big. That's good for them.
And I think also what's cool, just kind of checking out the top 10 here. We had mentioned earlier in the segment that it's pretty much mostly 9 out of 10, or the past few years have been guys that also fish other tours. there's some other guys in the mix. We're all familiar with Jason Burrows. He's made a name locally and done really well on the NPFL. That guy can straight catch them. But Derek Layton, another upstate South Carolina guy, starting to come into his own over there in 7th place. Ryan Satterfield. So not all guys that you would consider household names on other professional tours, but kind of back to the Brandon Cobb thing. He's been quiet. The past few years, won those 2 Elite Series events in big fashion. But you talk about Cobb being a power fisherman and just knowing Brandon a little bit and knowing a lot of guys who are close with him. Man, he in the off season, he fishes literally every single day on upstate South Carolina fisheries. And his primary goal has been to kind of get better at the forward-facing sonar deal, particularly using it shallow and getting a little bit better at that, and also, practicing his deep game with it as well. But it looks like those 2 things are coming together very nicely with him being in the mix on the Elite Series and then being able to go back to his power fishing roots over on the NPFL and being in 2nd place over there. So heck of a season on both tours for Cobb. Staying sharp, man. A guy is not spending many nights at home in his own bed for sure. He's on the road getting after it.
Did Welcher win the MPFL AOY in 23 when he won the Bassmaster?
I believe so, but we can find out. There's this thing called Google.
Cam with a great point there. That's incredibly hard to do. That shows that you're fishing remarkably well.
No, Walters won in 2023.
He won it in 24.
Okay, yeah. Walters wins 2023. Yep. So, but both of those guys, man, just staples, and they have supported NPFL, really since the beginning. NPFL, as you mentioned, got a lot of good things going on. Fun to watch, fun to cover, and coming down to the wire with a absolute shootout of an AOY race. I thought interesting points wise, KJ Queen winning, but they list the total weight of events fish caught, and Zach Burge leading that with 142
Remember when that used to be
pounds.
The Angler of the Year stuff?
Yeah, that's why it stood out to me. Was that
that's
used
old
to be
school
AOY.
as it gets.
Absolutely, old school. Bassmaster stuff, and if you guys have ever fished club tournaments, a lot of clubs used to do it that way, but
they still do. There's still some clubs.
Yeah, 142 pounds 5 ounces, and first place in AOY, KJ Queen with 135.8. So pretty interesting there. There's an anomaly with that. Second place Cobb with 132.13. So could be some penalties and things involved there. We don't know if that's straight weight, but pretty cool there over there on the NPFL. So looking forward to see how that all plays out.
I remember the Assumption Bass Club when we would fish, it would take anywhere from 3 to 7 pounds to win most Assumption Bass Club tournaments in Central Illinois back in the day. But then there were like 2 lakes that we would go to. Like one would always be Lake of Egypt at the beginning of the year, and the other would be Taylorville, where you knew it would take, like a 20-pound bag to win, but it was total weight for the Angler of the Year. Plus, there was not a differentiation for co-anglers either. So everybody, God, I'm old. I fished a total weight format where I was competing against the guy in the front of the boat. And I just realized that.
Yeah, if you fish that stuff over the years, you kind of, find a box or something with some old plaques, and you look at it and you're like, man, total weight for the year. I was in whatever place with, 48 pounds
but
for the
you
year,
could
0-3
tournaments and then catch 22 pounds and be leading the Angler of the Year, as opposed to a guy who finished 3rd with like 7 pounds in the first 3
absolutely. I remember some heated debates because guys would come in and fish, February, March, April, and were just really good at that period of time.
Get a big
during
lead
the year, big lead and just not support the club the rest of the year. And everybody's scratching and clawing with 6 or 7 pounds of tournament to try to catch up, and it never happened. Made for interesting discussions and at the end of the year club banquet, let's say.
Oh yeah, everybody gets all liquored up at the club banquet, which usually is in one of the guys' garages, and they do fried fish and usually a lot of deer sausage and snacks that break out in that.
Yeah, a lot of quotes. You couldn't show up but for 3 club tournaments, but you can show up for the free food and the jacket.
Yeah, it was always a big deal. Like, it got to the point of the assumption at one point where a lot of the same guys were winning the plaque, so they just stopped giving plaques to anybody that had already previously won one. So unless you were like this was after I'd left, but I remember talking after, unless you were a first time plaque winner, you wouldn't be able to like stack the plaques in your garage like you used, second place, AOY, club. And some of the guys were not happy about that because they were in the business of plaque collecting.
Yep, same on our end, man. It got to the point where you got they did away with the plaques, then they gave you a jacket, and then if you won, they would pay for the year to get embroidered. So there's 4 numbers, on your embroidery. So you could get the free embroidery, but if you were winning a lot, they weren't giving you anything extra.
I'll tell you, if you're a tournament director and you're looking to get, whether it's a Tuesday night or a weekend series, anything going, invest heavily in quality hardware. So like, even if it's a Tuesday nighter and you're like not having boats, word gets out that there's a nice embroidered plaque for every Tuesday night, your boats will double. I promise you, like, that is the key to a successful tournament trail. Like, I used to fish the ABAs just to try to get the damn eagle head.
Yeah, eagle heads are cool. It's interesting you mentioned that. I was having a discussion not too long ago with some guys. And so up at Clark's Hill, down at Wildwood, where you and Gleason put in, they have an event. The Clark's Hill Committee puts on an event called Mr. Clark's Hill. So they have a big weigh-in deal, facility, like, I guess, whatever you want to call it, building that you weigh in under. It's like permanent. It's really nice. But the Mr. Clark's Hill deal, they have the plaques like on the wall, almost like a memorial type thing, right? Mm-hmm. So every year, if whoever wins, it's the year, Mr. Clark's Hill, the name or whatever. And that tournament consistently draws, and it's a huge deal. And I was talking to some guys down in the Low Country on the Cooper River, and I was like, you guys should do like this. It's interesting to me that more lakes and fisheries, guys that put on events and run things like that, don't catch on to that format, because that is an absolute huge deal if you're like Mr. Grand Lake or whatever. And I'm sure some of it has to do with facilities not letting you permanently house things like that. But even
some
if it's
sort
a
of
big
hardware,
trophy,
though.
yeah, even if it's a big trophy, I mean, it's like, think about how the Classic trophy works. Every name that wins the Classic is on the trophy. Now, people get individual trophies, but there is that one primary trophy that has everybody's name who has won the Bassmaster Classic. And I think that's a really, really cool tradition.
CS Squared Fishing, he's all in on the belt buckles. He said, I always wanted to have a belt buckle. Just imagine showing up to the season opener with your AOY belt buckle. Like, I think that's fantastic. Like, that's something that you can display. You can hang it up if you want. You can wear it if you want.
Yeah, the championship belts are a little bit different. I don't know that many people. That is interesting too.
Because it can't be too much. You can't have like a WWE championship belt for a club champion, but like a quality belt buckle and nice.
But even Elite Series, are those guys missing out on something? I mean, you get a Century belt, right? Why have we not seen a guy show up day one of the next season just wearing the Century belt, displaying it like a championship belt?
It's tacky. Like Ray Scott had it, Dave. Back in the day, have you ever been over to one of the old school Bassmaster guys' house and you're like, my God, this guy, look at his wall of plaques. And then you start looking at it and it's like 38th place, 1997 Invitational Eufaula, Alabama.
Yes, it has gone down further. So as many tournaments as I've covered, and maybe it's just me not paying attention to how things go down, but Brandon Polinick, he always posts a picture with the winner of the Elite Series events. It's been a tradition of his for several years now, right? Mm-hmm. And he posted the picture with Chris Johnson, and Brandon was holding the second place trophy for the Elite Series. And I'm like, I didn't even know they gave a second place for the Elites. I knew they did for the Opens.
For like the top 40, dude.
So maybe they're getting back a little bit of that, or maybe they've been doing the second place and maybe top 3, top 5, whatever. We just haven't paid attention. But yeah, I'm all for
that
going
I don't
back
think
to
the organizations
top
realize
50.
is you are creating an immeasurable amount of goodwill for years to come when you give hardware out. I don't think it, the first place trophy is always the first place trophy, and only one guy can have that. So I don't think you're devaluing the trophy by giving more trophies out. But in a day and age where I can have to make a decision between fishing a big team tournament trail, a one-off, a BFL, a Toyota, an open, all of these things, if I am looking at the wall and I remember my 8th place open finish from 5 years ago, I'm going to associate fond memories with that. Otherwise, I just forget it. The money's 5 years past spent and it means nothing. But when you look at that and you have that constant reminder, hell, I still have a 2nd place FLW tournament from a BFL in 2013 on my wall up there. I've got an Assumption Bass Club 8th place. Is that 8th place? Yeah, that's 8th place in 1998. But I associate memories and fondness with them in when you're trying to fight for a limited number of anglers, having that, which will always be displayed in your office, in your home, in your man cave, in your shop, wherever. Like, I think you're more likely to stick with that organization if you can look at that and have fond memories of getting hardware from them.
I don't disagree. I mean, point proven probably, since we're still talking about, club plaques and trophies we got 20 some odd years ago. And also I think if you follow a lot of professional anglers on social media, you see guys jump in BFLs, and if they're fortunate enough to win the BFL trophy and it's like one of their first ones, they're like, they're so stoked, so pumped about finally being able to add that BFL trophy, maybe not even the title of winning, but just adding that piece of hardware to the mantle. So I think great points.
Last tournament that took place this past week was basically it was show up and let the locals smoke everybody on Kentucky Lake, Bassmaster Open, stop number 3, Clint Knight, local there, battled it out with Tristan McCormick, 62-2 community holes is kind of what he said, but ran a lot of the lake, mixed bags, smallmouth, largemouth, forward-facing, minnow, offshore stumps. I mean, it was exactly how you thought it would go down. Tristan McCormick, I knew I was in trouble the night before the tournament. He posted, like, see you in the morning, beautiful. And you're like, ooh, like, I'm struggling to catch 5. And this guy, like, knows he's going to go out and just cast, catch, count, and mount. But first win for Clint Knight, he went 21-8, 2015, and 1911, 62-2. I don't think many people thought that 3 weeks ago on Grand, which was flooded and muddy and all of that, it would take 6-7 pounds more to win than a mid to late May tournament on Kentucky Lake. But here we are, 62-2, Tristan McCormick, 2nd place, 60-15, Trey Schroeder, the man with the beanie, out of Missouri, I believe, 57-12. Good tournament for Garrett Paquette, former Elite Series angler. Had 15-10 the first day, backed it up, but the typical guys, Jack York, guys like that down there who aren't afraid to put all their eggs in one basket and let her fly.
Yeah, Kentucky Lake still showing signs of rebounding from being down for several years. Tournament results out there have been on the upswing, and maybe not everybody catching them, like they would have liked to at this open event, but certainly the weights in the top 10, very respectable. And to kind of tie back in something we talked about earlier, when we were talking about the electronics, I thought something that was very interesting in the final day story on Bassmaster was Knight talking about being really spun out on the final day because his side scan transducer was not working. Now, this is a tournament where you can utilize forward-facing sonar. And, a guy, Kentucky Lake guy, TVA guy, showing you the importance, once again, of being able to have that side scan and to have that available to him during the event, not really just during practice, but during the event, being able to scan the bars, scan the spots, and see if fish were set up on them like he wanted to before utilizing his forward-facing sonar. So very interesting how the side scan technology is still playing a role, particularly on those TVA fisheries, knowing what we've seen go down on those things back in the day of the early side scan with KVD and some of those guys who really mastered it.
I don't think the side scan guys get enough credit because of all the new technology that's out there. And it's one thing to go to like a Leech Lake and to be like, there's a giant boulder on a sand flat. There's another giant boulder. I mean, they stick out like a sore thumb. But when I got that CMAPS reveal chip for Kentucky Lake for this one from the bass tank. And you get out there, and I've have a buddy who's up around Kentucky Lake. So before the 30-day off limits, I said, what do you think they'll be doing? He gave me like 6 spots and didn't really tell me how to set up on them or anything. And I spent 2 days and I idled those 6 spots. I didn't catch anything off of them, but like, I was like, okay, I'm going to see what he sent me, which I mean, I could look at in an hour total of the first day of practice based on side imaging. And then I can duplicate that throughout the whole section. You look at it and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shallow bars out there. The current sets up differently on everyone based on the generation. You've got the bait and whether the fish are out, and is it shell? Is it a ledge? Are there stumps? Is there rock? And like, I would side image this stuff. And like, I couldn't tell any damn difference, Dave. Like I went through, I had probably 100 bars and I couldn't, I mean, like it's amazing to me, the guys, especially with as many rough fish. You take a Jack York, you take a McCormick, you take these guys that are out there like old school, like Timmy Horton, just put your side imaging down and know that you are committing to this and that you're going to idle until you find a group. And then you can differentiate between the white bass and the walleye and the carp that are out there, and then a group of bass, and then figure out where they are and just idle for 9 hours and still have the confidence that you might find that winning school in the 10th hour. When you do it, when you live it, when you try it, like, I mean, I punted. I did it for a day and a half, and I said, I went straight back to BMR squared, Bridges, Marinas, Riprap, and Ramps. It's impressive. Like, it seems easy. Like, oh, you just go out there, you find a school on your side imaging, you put your forward facing to it, you cast a minnow and you catch it. That's not how it went down that week, because there were 160 guys that were all went in there, and probably 120, 130 of them had the same game plan, and only like 8 or 9 of them were able to figure it out.
It's certainly a learned skill. I mean, in this day and age, most of the settings from guys are readily available, and whether it's sonar classes or YouTube videos or articles, however you want to get that information, but the interpretation of what those guys are seeing on their units, it doesn't matter what brand they choose to run, but the interpretation, time behind the wheel, I think, makes a huge difference there. But being able to take that and interpret what they are seeing and then put it in play in a tournament event and be efficient with it is super impressive. I think one of the guys we saw do that very, very well was Tucker Smith when he won the Ultimate Angler Challenge on Gunnersville, which was a non-forward facing event. But, he spent a lot of time in the boat with Aaron Martins. Aaron, one of the guys with that side imaging that was just absolutely an expert at it, and setting it up properly and being able to interpret the fish he was seeing, the shadows, what kind of cover, the rough spots, everything that technology reveals. Tucker getting a lot of time with Aaron, and it showed the Ultimate Angler Challenge, which, by the way, you actually have an opportunity to maybe fish in the Ultimate Angler Challenge coming up, right?
Yeah, coming up. It's called the New Era of Competitive Fishing, the Future. It's put on by Fishing Chaos. It's there's some spots up for grabs for the Ultimate Angler Championship, but we're talking Scott Martin, the Nutt Brothers, Jordan Lee, Justin Lucas, Logan Parks, Gerald Swindle, Tristan McCormick will be there, Kyle Patrick, Hillary Martin, James Watson, myself, Alex Perrick, Laker Howell. There's a bunch of guys that are involved in this. I'm headed to Gunnersville this afternoon, actually, and we're setting it all up. We're all going to have live streams from our boats. There's going to be at Fishing Chaos, there's going to be a hub where they're going to have all of the live streams coming from that. And then on Tuesday, this Wednesday from 12 to 7 p.m. There's going to be a 7-hour team tournament. I guess I'll announce it now. I'm fishing with Justin Lucas. So it's myself and Justin Lucas as a team. I believe Freddie Boom Boom Urbanus just announced that he's fishing with his son Jackson in that event. All the other teams are kind of leaving it a little bit up to mystery as to who it is. But the way I understand it, and we have a meeting tomorrow or Tuesday. Yeah, tomorrow. I gotta get on the road here. But 6 hours, you can use your forward-facing sonar, your best 5 fish, and then you turn the live scope off for the last hour, and then every keeper counts for your total weight using Bubba scales that are all connected. We know what everybody has. It's really kind of the first interactive live stream tournament where you have the individual streams from the boats, a collective stream. You can watch who you want, when you want, a lot of trash talk, and a lot up for grabs there as the top teams will go to that Ultimate Angler Championship.
Yeah, scrolling social media yesterday and this morning, I saw a couple more teams announced. Gerald Swindle and James Worldwide Watson. That'll be an interesting live stream to watch. Christine Fisher and Hillary Martin. So
okay,
that's cool. You know, you want to check that one out. But the cool thing about this is, like you said, in theory, you can bounce around and watch anybody you want to. Watch you and Lucas. How did you talk Lucas into letting you grace the bow of his Phoenix?
I don't know. Jordan Lee's fishing in this deal too, and he posted a picture of his little kid with the life jacket on, like casting the Snoopy pole out and stuff. And I screenshot it and I said, "This is going to be me and Lucas's boat on."
just sit down and shut up, Hanger.
Yeah, we've kind of talked a little bit about the strategy. Justin and I actually have some signed dollar bills. I've been in the boat one time on the Arkansas River with Justin Lucas, who did a first, biggest, and most, and I went 3 for 3. Now, granted, he was practicing for an open, and I may have set the hook a couple times when he told me to shake it off, but we had $1 on the line. This was a number of years ago. But this was one of the quote. I just told him, I said, "I'm just bringing my minnows and a few topwater plugs, and basically I'll use your stuff other than that, if that's okay." And he just hearted that. So that's our game plan. But, you know, Lucas is so organized, has all of his stuff together. I mean, I'm not going to come in there with like 6 tackle boxes like a co-angler and 10 rods. I'm bringing 3 bait casters, 2 spinning rods, and calling it good for the
dude. That'd be a great guy to hop in the boat with, right? Boat's going to be immaculate, clean, organized. You're going to have healthy boat food and non-alcoholic brew to drink afterwards.
Yeah,
he's probably gonna get you to bring your running shoes, man. He's probably gonna make you a pre and post tournament run afterwards.
Last time I went running with a buddy, I ended up sitting on a park bench while he finished the run, and then picked me up a quarter mile back while I was sitting on the park bench still. So, but no, that'll be fascinating. I do want to also mention, and I'll show a couple clips on this because this is pretty comical. I did post my video from Kentucky Lake, because it was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday tournament. So I got that out. That's out on BTL also. So I have an hour left to fish in this clip, Dave. And one of the cool things about filming for the first time in 3 or 4 years is I didn't realize I've become much more calmer, but B, like, I didn't realize how you can like sense the distress as I fish. So I have like 4 fish with less than an hour left in this. Watch this clip. This was how I caught my limit fish. So like there's nothing on that pole. I'd never fished this marina. I had less than an hour to fish. I just flip it out there and look, I am stressed out right there. I'm like, man, what am I going to do? I have no idea what to do. I've got less. I've only got 4. I need it. I go to reel it in and I got one on.
The bobber went under.
The bobber 100% went under. Watch. I just pitch it, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I had 15.5 the first day. What am I going to do? Oh, there he is right there. That's a strong limit fish right there. And I'd never been in that marina, I'd never seen it. And it ended up being a 2.5 pounder.
Yeah, you're looking a lot better there, dude. You were like only a quarter into like the chaos crouch. You didn't get in full chaos crouching mode. Looked pretty calm.
So this is the sickening thing that happened then. So I had like no time left, and I had 1 brush pile in practice that I had caught a 6 pounder off of in practice. Literally, I'll tell you how I found it. So lucky. So I'm running towards New Johnsonville. I'm way up there on the first day of practice, and Cranford, who's one of my good buddies, calls me, and he wants to talk about Santee Cooper because he had a big comeback the second day, 21 plus. So I put my earbuds in, and I'd been running, like just running, and I saw just a pocket off to the right. So I put my earbuds in, and he's talking about Santee Cooper, about how he figured it out on day 2 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just literally in the middle of nowhere, idling like it's just a pocket. There's no creek in the back. There's no name on it, nothing. And I've got my side imaging on, and I was like, hey, I'm going to have to call you back. Like, I just saw something really weird on side imaging. So I marked it and I went back. It was either like a sunken duck blind or something. It was in like 8 foot of water. Middle of this just barren bank cut. And I spin back around and I throw a jerkbait over it. And there's like all these big giant balls in it. And I was like, oh, they got to be carp. And a fish comes up and nips the jerkbait. So I pick up a drop shot, and immediately I get a bite, and then my line breaks because it's like metal or something down there. So then I pick up a minnow, and a 6-pounder comes up, and like all of them follow it. And I'm like, oh my God, those are all bass. So I run back there on the first day, and they're gone. So at the second day, with like an hour left, I'm already 15 miles away. So I have to run another 8 miles at 70 miles an hour. So I'm like, okay, I'll have 5 minutes to fish it. I've got 5 for 11 and a half, 12 pounds. I was like, let's make a gut call. So I knew that I would run to this spot and only have like 5 minutes left to fish. And I immediately like run, set down. I've got like 5-10 casts left. I've got a 112 in the boat, and my very first cast on it, I hook up on a freaking good one. And it's like a 3.5, 4-pounder. It jumps and comes off. Like, I make that run. I'm 30 miles from the ramp. But the cool thing about videoing it is I like went back and I've watched this like 10 or 15 times. I don't think I did anything wrong on this. Like, I was totally chill with it because if you watch, when I said it, I didn't fight the fish. I kept the fish coming towards me, which has been my biggest thing over the last 2 years. Keep the hook points towards you. I got a good hook set. Watch. Boom. Good hook set. Keep the fish coming. Keep the fish coming. As he jumps, I keep reeling. I kept my rod, and he just jumped off. There's nothing I could have done. This gets even more disgusting because I didn't even put my minnow back on. I pick up a koiki. So this is the very next cast on the koiki. So like, I'm like, oh, I got one more cast. I'm popping the koiki. Like, literally, no, this is my boom. And I hook up, and it's like heavy head shakes. Boom, boom. I'm like, this is it. You can watch it on there. I said, this is it. This is a big one. I somehow managed to snag a channel catfish in the tail.
There's the moment where you realize it.
Yes, it didn't roll because it was hooked in, and then I'm done, and I have to run back in. It didn't even roll because it was hooked in the tail, and when it was swimming, it felt like head shakes of a 6 or 7 pounder.
Seems like some positives to take away from that, though. Looks like good decisions. Circumstance led you to the place, but you made the right call to go back to it, and could have called out what couple of pounds may have got you in check range there.
So it would have put me in. I did the math. It would have low end. It would have put me in like 46 again.
But the points.
Yep. It is what it is. All right, I got to get on the road.
You need to finish it up strong and make the EQs. I'm sure everybody on BTL wants to see that and follow you for 3 more tournaments. So that would be really cool if you could get that done. Cool schedule for the EQs this year. Going to be some interesting fisheries at interesting times of the year. So that's coming up before we know it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you jumping on kind of a last minute show. Didn't know if I was going to be able to come home or go straight to Gunnersville from that. So home for 48 hours, but yeah.
Cool, man. Well, keep us posted on the tournament. I'm sure everybody wants to see a little pre-fishing with Justin Lucas. So fire up the social media and keep everybody posted.
It's supposed to rain. That's the only problem.
That's all right.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
All right. See you.
See ya. All right. That's all we got for today's show. Stay tuned. Like I said, it's just a quick 48-hour turnaround, but some really cool things going on with the future tournament over at Fishing Chaos. I'll have the links for everything in my show. But until then, we will talk to everybody later. See ya.